Welcome back to the Bullish Bears YouTube channel for video 3 in this 3-video series on how to spot and trade a very fast measured move, or how to spot it fast. This works on pretty much every time frame, and I've shown you how to draw manual fan lines. I've shown you the little trick for using the pitch fan drawing tool on TradingView here. Now I'm going to show you something a little strange that seems to work really well. And in some occasions, you can actually use this quite accurately. It's a little weird one, but it's kind of interesting the way it draws your fans. It's called the Fib Speed Resistance Fan, and essentially it just draws a series of Fibonacci spaced or Fibonacci calculated resistance levels. So when you find a common support or a common pivot, you can pretty accurately fan out all the fib levels within that pivot and trade them. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So we can find a common support area, and let's say we were just looking at our pre-market and we got just a little bit of the opening range on our 5-second chart here. So this is really not a lot of time here. So looking into this, we can see that we have a common low that comes right into the opening, and that is about where it lines up for this base and this base. So we can kind of pick an area back here where that base was first tested, right here in the pre-market. So we can start our first point right there on that candle, and we just take our fan and draw it out, and you can stabilize it to whatever part of this opening range you want. In this case, we didn't get much of a rally at the open beyond that, so I'm going to line it up probably with about the 50% level of this particular channel. So I'm going to line it up just about there. So that's our common angular resistance. This is our common support level, or our pivot, and this is our fib band. And you can see everything kind of calculates to all the magical fib numbers that I rarely use. Admittedly, I end up using them quite often anyway. I just don't like to call them fibs. I like to call them, fan lines. It just makes more sense to me. It looks like a damn fan. Anyway, let's get back to business. So we got our pivot here. We have a quick test of support, and we have a trend change where you can see price is back on top of the 8 period, and I use that 8 period quite methodically on anything I trade. It gives me really good signals when it crosses the 20, just a simple moving average. I can usually capture or at least spot and identify a leg of a measured move when I see price cross above that 8 period and break a previous resistance level. So here we have a control bar. There's resistance. Just so happens that the 200 moving average goes through there, and we can see that there is a nice little hammer, and when I'm focused in on my 5-second chart, I'm watching for those. So I can see very quick action. There is a 1-for-1 measured move likely to occur here, and then we got this leg. We got almost a 50% retracement right back to a common fib, and we went right up through it. Now, this wouldn't have been the best signal here to take your exit. In fact, gave you a little tweezer top and told you might be wrong in this situation if you went long on this part of the leg here after the pullback to the 8 period. So to capture a measured move off of this would have been a little tricky if you were trying to trade the open. I typically like to wait for a couple waves of the opening range before I start trading, but I'll use this as a way to identify what's probably coming down from the reversal. So unless this was going to sit here and trend bullish all day long and start shooting through all these fib lines, this was likely to pull back and find support around the pivot. So you can take this trade here. You can try and scalp this little move here. That's fine. If you were brave enough to stay in this, or you kept a good trailing stop on, okay. And I'm talking trading this on futures. I wouldn't try to trade this with SPY. That's quite expensive. The options are just crazy sloppy in the opening range. Very hard to trade SPY in this respect, but I'm using this as a demonstration. Anyway, let's get on. So bouncing this move, you get a nice little 1-for-1, pretty clean. Most of the move is there. If you would have taken this as a quick sell signal, sure, you could have sold in this 5-second candle if you're fast enough. But the idea here is to identify your opportunities. So my opportunities come when I find myself being patient and waiting for the chart to give me the opportunity I want to find or I want to see. Taking this entry here, sure, you could have grabbed a nice clean 1-for-1 off of that, get out on this inverted hammer right here, no problem. Pop it right off on the wick as it crossed through this pivot. Easy enough trade. Okay, if you're well awake and you've had your second cup of coffee by the time the market opens, yeah, you can usually catch that. Ideally, though, you got a nice little M-top reversal here, rejection off a common fib. You got one leg, 2, see your pause candle, 3, pause candle, 4, pause spinner. So you can go and walk this through each pivot and literally take a short position here and move your stop to each one of these fib lines. So take your stop back and after this candle pushes through, move your stop here, or you can run a trailing stop about 1 fib wide, whatever you want to do on that. And you can keep riding this until you got the signal to get the hell out. Cancel it. Now the move did resume down to the common pivot. We don't always want to take it straight to the pivot. Sometimes you'll find that there's liquidity here where there's limit buyers ready to move up just above that pivot and take this position. So there were a little bit of buyers here, and then the bears kind of took it and ran it through that pivot real quick. They know where they are. So anyway, we can trade bullish and bearish. We know where they are too. So coming back here after this little short-term reversal here, we get a 1 and a 2. There's a 1-for-1 on that pivot break, right? So here we have a nice clean signal. If you missed the first leg, you can catch the second leg on the pullback and test. Get a nice clean 1-for-1. Came back, made a 50% retracement, tested support, continued on. You could have caught the rebound on that. That would have been pretty easy to trade. Running up here, you get yet again one leg, 50% pullback, slight over extension here, and another leg. So you get 1-for-1s pretty readily with this if you know what to look for. And when you start seeing it test a fib line, you can know that there's likely going to be a struggle here. The buyers and sellers are going to have a little fight. That's what these wicks are. It's a failed breakout. There's limit orders that took that. So now you have a clean signal. Price goes above the 8 period. You can ride a short trend. This would have been more of a 1-for-1 from this leg here. There's your pullback, 50% retracement test. Continue on. You just have to know where you're looking for your first leg, and it can be any one of these. And as price is tending to range like it is here, you can still do that. You can catch a 1-for-1 on every time you see a test of support. This wouldn't have been a very easy trade to take here. I probably would have avoided this one, even though we had a nice pretty little morning star there and it popped right through that 8 period. That's a bit parabolic for my taste. I've been known to scalp them occasionally, but I've got to be pretty spry to catch that move on a 5-second chart. But this clean reversal and rejection off this fib level here gave us a nice signal. Came back through that 8 period and started a pause, kind of collected support on the next fib. You could have taken out your stop right there if you got short on the break. Got a nice 1-for-1 out of that. Or if you were patient enough and you kept or you kept a trailing stop, you probably could have stayed in this and got a 2-for-1 out of it. Moving on, you can kind of see it test a common pivot, bounced off, gave us a quick rebound, back through. That's a nice trade there. Coming off the key pivot again, this is our base pivot, our common pivot from the open. That's the opening low. You can watch this here, okay? Pull back, tested it twice, there's a double bottom. Break of R1, that's our resistance level right here, first high. And we get leg 1, pull back, 50% retracement, 1-for-1 again. It's a pretty simple way to use it, and you can utilize the fib fan or you can utilize a common pitch fan. Whichever you would like to use, it's up to you. But this is just me showing you one more way to trade general fan lines and spotting measured moves with relative ease on pretty much any time frame. You can utilize this in a swing trade. You can trade overnight positions on this. You can often spot your measured moves very efficiently on a swing trade, as a matter of fact, because when you have slower price action, you can tend to spot the key support and resistance levels fairly easy. And if you laid a fan on it, and then you can go, and if you really need the visual cue to catch this, you can mark your first leg with a rectangle. You can find that move, that pullback, and your trade would be a 1-for-1 by simply grabbing that box and moving it up above the resistance level and trade from one side to the other. You catch your whole move. That candle went exactly 1-for-1 from this base, this leg, this pullback, and resistance break right to peak. Instant swing trade setup. I spot these all the time on equities. Recently I've traded one on Tesla, did one on Intel Corp, Amazon. Pretty much every large cap I've looked at, I've been able to trade that 1-for-1 pretty easily. This is just a great way to spot them. Alright, well that's it for now. Catch us next time. We're going to have all these different series on different ways to identify price action, setups, and different patterns in the chart to trade. We'll keep it up. In the meantime, enjoy, and hopefully this will help you become a more profitable trader. Thanks for joining us.